This wasn't a debate. This was a complete car crash. Sarah Pochin went on Politics Live and delivered what might be one of the most chaotic, disastrous performances we've seen from a politician in recent memory. From the second she opened her mouth, it was clear this wasn't going to be a normal discussion. She didn't come prepared to debate. She came to shout. She talked over everyone, dodged every question thrown at her, and the moment anyone challenged her on anything, her only strategy was to get louder. It was so bad from the start that she either completely failed to do basic research or she just couldn't be bothered to show even the most minimal level of respect by addressing other MPs by their actual names. Watch what happens next because this gets worse, much worse.
I'd like to say how fascinating that the Labour representative on this programme today took exactly 2 seconds to mention the name Nigel Farage, which is all Labour seems to be able to do at the moment. The Tory and the Tory and the Labour member, you've had your say, then proceed to argue.
And this is exactly how the entire segment went. She just steamrolled every single conversation. No listening, no substance, just noise. Watch.
How are these two going to pay for it? The Tories spent 14 years ignoring this problem, whilst, incidentally, whilst the Ukraine war started, we had war in Europe and you were doing nothing about it.
Let's get back to the point you made. We did nothing on Ukraine. That is a complete nonsense.
I didn't say that.
We were the first country
I didn't say that.
Wait, did you hear what she just said? She's claiming she didn't say it, but she literally just said it a minute ago.
Ukraine war started, we had war in Europe and you were doing nothing about it.
So embarrassing.
Ukraine and Zelensky.
No, I didn't say that. I said you've done nothing about getting
let him answer the point about Ukraine.
No.
Then came the moment where the whole thing completely fell apart. The numbers, or more accurately, the complete lack of understanding about what those numbers actually mean. Sarah confidently claimed that reform could save £225 billion by scrapping net zero policies. Massive number, sounds impressive. There's just one problem. That money isn't government spending. It's private investment. Completely different thing. And she got called out on it immediately. Even the Institute for Government, the very source she was citing, confirmed that her claim was completely wrong. She was literally quoting fiction as fact. So what does she do when confronted with this? Does she acknowledge the mistake? Does she clarify? Does she recalibrate? No, she doubles down.
Sarah also mentioned the fact that we need to have a robust energy policy in this country. Well, why aren't the Labour government and the Tories government also failed to do it, investing and getting our own gas out the ground? Why aren't we using our own oil out the ground? No, Sarah, you've had your say. The point is we could be self-sufficient in energy. We're just bringing nuclear on board. But to be fair, that's been a Tory policy that the Labour are now talking about today.
How are you going to pay for all the nuclear?
Well, we have talked about... We don't know every single costing element of our policy.
Yeah, but you do have to...
4 years out. The point is
no, but you do have to answer broad questions, Sarah, about this, because you have a lot of policies, including lifting the income tax threshold to £20,000. I mean, that will cost billions and billions of pounds.
It will. But as we quite clearly said, and we have talked about how we're going to cost it. We've been talking about it for the last 3
billion
weeks.
Pounds it's going to cost,
so,
at least?
For example, we've costed scrapping the net zero projects over the next 5 years will bring in £225 billion.
That's very much disputed by a lot of the experts because they point out that a lot of the spending on this is private companies. It's not the government.
It is private companies.
We're going to spend
and by the way, it's not a reform calculation. Sorry, Sarah. This is an IFG calculation, which is what Nigel Farage said. I was at that press conference where he stood up and he said, this is the Institute for Government that's come up with this number. Now, the Institute for Government, I called them that afternoon, they said that that is a total spend across the economy, most of which, as Kevin says, is private money. So that is not money the government can save by scrapping.
And we can argue about what exactly the figure is. The point
that's not exact. That's a major hole in this very expensive promise that we're talking about.
Hold on. That's a major income to scrap those projects. The other projects that we've talked about quite clearly, you deport, you get rid of the illegal immigrant, the foreign national offenders in our jails. Whoa, gone.
But 50 billion to 80 billion pounds for
you get rid of
one
the
of your
illegal
policies
immigrants here in the country that are costing £46,000 a year each. Whoa, millions.
And your
coming
major way
in.
to pay for that
You've
is you said
got to be
220.
brave.
You said 220 billion pounds saved by scrapping net zero projects. That's a huge number.
It is
Will
a
you
huge
admit
number.
that most of that number is not government spending, so is not there for the government to save?
I'm not going to admit that at all, because the point is we are saying to you, look at that area.
And then Sarah Owen steps in and absolutely dismantles the whole act. She calls out exactly what's happening here, the dog whistle politics that's been running throughout this entire segment.
Need for a debate about the burqa?
Slight irony there. Sarah talking about husbands not being telling their wives what to wear, but quite happy with the state telling women what to wear. I don't think that's where we should be. Zaya Youssef called it dumb. I would say it's dangerous and disingenuous, if I'm honest, the way that PMQ was phrased. Dangerous because less than a year ago we saw riots in our streets because of dog whistle politics, such as what we heard just then. We saw mosques attacked. We saw people scared. People that I know, my friends, constituents of mine in Luton, that were absolutely terrified to even go out because of that sort of debate and the tone of that debate. And secondly, I'd say it's disingenuous for all the points that Vicky's just raised around safety. You couched that PMQ in terms of safety. If you were talking about safety and face coverings, why not ask the question about balaclavas instead of burqas? I haven't finished. I haven't finished. If it was genuinely about public safety, why not ask the question about balaclavas rather than burqas?
How many women have you spoken to about wearing the burqa? Do you speak to women about this? I mean, there's not very many of them, according to...
I'll tell you what, though. I
can't. You can.
No, hang on a
speak
minute.
to women
Hang on.
wearing burqa all the
I
time.
campaigned hard in Bolton South East years ago, 10 years ago. And when I say you can't, if a woman has got a burqa on and they're in the streets, you cannot talk to them. They won't talk to you because they're not allowed to talk to you.
That's not
Sarah,
true.
final word on this.
That is totally untrue. And actually, when Kemi says she wouldn't speak to somebody wearing a burqa in a surgery, women can take off their burqa in front of another woman, and that has happened with me. And I just think that when we talk about this, we need to talk about this responsibly, because I don't want to see the repeat of what happened in summer. Maybe you do.
Just when you think it couldn't possibly get any worse, it does. She actually tried to laugh off her mug stunt as just a joke, like it was all some harmless bit of fun.
I just show one more image, Sarah. The photo that's emerged of you, which I'm sure you've seen, with a mug, and on it is a photo of Keir Starmer, which is him wearing a hijab. Where did that come from? Why did you do that?
Honestly, you probably won't believe me, but you're doing a walk around up and down a market. It was campaigning. Someone thrust a mug into my hand. I saw two-tier Keir and his face, and a snapshot was taken. Actually, that photo was never, ever used publicly. That photo was destroyed as soon as we realised, out of respect, as soon as we realised he was in a burqa, the photo was destroyed. It's been leaked by someone I sacked.
And do you regret doing that, or would you...
Oh, no, it was a bit of fun at the time. Of course I don't. We've got a sense of humour in this country. And actually, I still think it's quite funny, but we never used it publicly. That's just come out through, sour grapes. These things happen, but it's a bit of fun.
Did she regret any of it? Not even slightly. She called it a bit of fun. Let that sink in. She's running for public office and thinks this kind of behaviour is acceptable, that this is how you represent voters on a national platform. Throughout this entire debate, Sarah Pochin didn't explain a single thing about how reform would actually fund its policies. She threw around buzzwords, cut waste, ditch woke, scrap DEI. But the moment anyone asked for actual numbers, for real plans, for substance, nothing. Just deflection and volume. And yet, somehow she still had the audacity to accuse everyone else of lying. Classic projection. Can't defend your own position, so attack everyone else's credibility instead. If this is what reform is bringing to the national stage, shouting matches, dodgy math, and culture war distractions instead of serious policy, they've got massive problems ahead. Because Sarah didn't just fail to win the argument, she didn't even show up prepared to have won. And honestly, it was almost amusing to watch Labour and Conservative MPs actually put aside their usual differences for a moment, just to exchange looks that said, "What on earth is she talking about?" Of course, the Tories have their own mess to deal with right now. Kevin Hollinrake tried claiming you should be free to wear whatever you want while simultaneously arguing for banning what people wear. Yeah, try making sense of that logic. If you want to see that train wreck, check out the video on screen now. Thanks for watching. If this was as painful for you as it was for me, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.